If you're into watches like I am, then I know you've heard this all the time. If you're getting into watches, buy a Seiko. They're affordable, durable, and the perfect starter watch. But when it comes to business, staying the same can be just as risky as changing. And in the story of Seiko, they changed. What happens when a brand built by its fans decides to rewrite its story from the top down? In this video, we're going to unpack the business case of Seiko, from a cult classic to a strategic cautionary tale. Before we get started, welcome to my channel. This is Slide 72, where we do deep dive business breakdowns that reveal the real factors behind business successes and failures. So if you're into brand strategy, consumer behavior, and the cultural currents that shape the market, this is the channel for you. Let's get into it. So Seiko was originally founded in 1881, and they immediately built a reputation for innovation and reliability. They invented Japan's first wristwatch. Then, in 1969, the Seiko Astron, the first quartz watch, shook the Swiss industry to its core. But for modern enthusiasts, Seiko hasn't just been a brand. It is a gateway drug to mechanical watches. And here's the twist. A lot of that wasn't really Seiko's doing. It was the gray market, actually, like Amazon, eBay, Nomon, to help Seiko become the king of affordable quality. Seiko would set a $450 MSRP on a watch like the cult classic SARB035, but you could grab it for $300 all day long. Brand new, free shipping, no questions asked. That gray market pricing, it created perceived value. A $450 watch for $300 feels like a real steal. Feels like loyalty. And when you over-deliver on price, your fans will do the marketing for you. In the 2000s to the 2010s, Seiko didn't just have a product market fit, it had enthusiast market fit. The SKX007 for $200, the SARB035 for $300. These weren't watches that you saw at the mall and picked up. These were watches your buddy told you about on Reddit or a YouTuber reviewed in his bedroom. The gray market made Seiko watches accessible, modifiable, shareable, and the value wasn't just in the watch. It was in the experience of getting something really great for less. And that perception created trust, and that trust built a tribe. Around 2018 to 2020, Seiko made a more calculated move. Climb upmarket. They discontinued the SKX and SARB lines and replaced them with modern lookalikes, often with worse specs at higher prices. Anyone who remembers the original Cocktail Time will be able to attest to that. They tried to bring pricing under control, tighten distribution, and reposition the brand closer to mid-tier luxury. From a corporate strategy perspective, it made sense. Reduce gray market leakage, protect margins, and monetize brand equity. But to the fans, it felt like a betrayal. The very pricing freedom that built Seiko's reputation was now being reined in. The value disappeared, and so did the goodwill. And ironically, Seiko's pivot worked, at least financially. Yes, they're selling fewer units, but making more per watch. They spun off Grand Seiko as a luxury line, and they're targeting markets where Seiko is still seen as aspirational. But culturally, they're torching the bridge that built their brand. It's a classic trade-off of short-term profitability versus long-term trust. The issue is, once trust is lost, it doesn't go on sale again. Let's talk about perpetual sales and pricing illusion. So today, sites like Nomon watches still sell Seikos at a discount, hovering between 20 to 30% off MSRP. And that's because Seiko's MSRP is often inflated to give room for artificial markdowns. It's retail theater. Anchor high, sell low. But here's the problem. Once you're always on sale, consumers stop believing in your price tags altogether. And now Seiko sort of has a brand perception problem. It's like, are you premium or are you just pretending to be? The gray market used to elevate Seiko's value. Now it exposes the brand's internal contradictions. Here's really the major crux of the issue. Even as prices rise, Seiko's legendary quality hasn't. Watch forums are filled with complaints, misaligned bezels, off-center chapter rings, inconsistent finishing. And, at $200, that's kind of cute. At $800, it's unacceptable. And this hits harder because Seiko is a Japanese company, and Japanese manufacturing is synonymous with Kaizen, continuous process improvement, tight tolerances, pride in process. So think Toyota, think Canon, think Nintendo. But Seiko, in this new era, they don't feel like a Kaizen company. And that disconnect damages the brand. In a day and age where micro brands are offering sapphire crystals, ceramic bezels, and tight QC for $400, Seiko's reputation for craftsmanship is no longer a given. And when your MSRP starts climbing into the 4-digit range, the flaws become deal breakers. This shift by Seiko has undoubtedly left a gap in the value for money segment, and competitors have predictably pounced. Micro brands like Notice and Laurier offer incredible specs for $400. Orient, which is owned by Seiko, quietly became the new darling of value shoppers. Citizen has stayed consistent with solar-powered offerings under $300. Even Swiss players like Tissot and Hamilton have doubled down on affordable luxury. This is what happens when a leader vacates a segment, others move in, and consumers move on. Also, when you look at brand identity and strategic clarity, Seiko's kind of confusing. Let's zoom out a bit and look at Seiko's brand family. So you've got Seiko, you got King Seiko, Grand Seiko, and you also have Creedor. On paper, the three former, they're distinct lines, but in practice, the names all carry one thing in common: Seiko. And here's the problem with that. When your core line is known for misaligned chapter rings and so-so finishing, it makes customers question the luxury claims of your premium lines. Grand Seiko is outstanding, but to an average consumer, it's still a Seiko. And that name now carries baggage. It's a brand halo problem in reverse. The bottom of the pyramid is bleeding up into the top. So the very thing that Seiko used to be proud of, that one name could mean so many things, is now a source of confusion and doubt. Seiko's strategy has lacked one crucial element: clarity. Are they still the champions of everyday consumers, or are they trying to be mid-tier luxury? In strategy, a confused brand confuses the market. When customers don't know who you are, they stop paying attention. Worse, the enthusiasts who once carried your brand message now feel alienated. So, what can we learn from Seiko's pivot? Lesson number 1, price increases must be accompanied by proportional increases in value, because customers notice. Lesson number 2, core customers are assets. If you pivot without bringing them along, you may lose your biggest advocates. Lesson 3, a brand's identity isn't what you say it is, it's what your customers believe it is. And number 4, if you're building your brand through community, gray market, or culture, honor that. Don't just flip the script when it becomes inconvenient. Seiko wanted higher margins, but in the process, they alienated the audience that built their reputation in the first place. So what does this mean for the consumer side, for us watch nerds? Well, we live in a time where brands are constantly repositioning, chasing growth, chasing premium segments. As consumers, we need to watch what they're offering relative to what they're asking. If you once bought a Seiko and felt like you robbed the store, that was value. That was alignment. When that feeling disappears, it's not about nostalgia. It's about the brand failing to deliver what it once promised. Seiko isn't dead. They still make excellent watches, and Grand Seiko is stronger than ever. And you can still find some really great hidden gems, but ultimately their strategy is a masterclass in how small changes compound into cultural shifts. They didn't just raise prices and phase out the gray market. They tried to overwrite a brand story that their community had written for them. And that's the takeaway for any business. You can charge more, but only if your value and your story keeps pace. In the end, it's not just about what you sell, it's about what people believe they're getting. And that belief, that's everything. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you got value from it, please hit the like button and subscribe for more business case studies.